Welcome, everybody, to the premiere of Odds and Ends, Life, Entertainment, Theater, and the Arts. I am Andrew Kozlowski, and with me is the world-class bass player, music producer, and my co-host for the show, Mr. Cool himself, Mr. Clyde Ballard. Clyde, how are you tonight?
I'm wonderful, Andrew, and thank you for having me here. You know, I'm trying to be a world-class bass player, and we're still studying and still getting better and better year by year, but I'm hanging in there. And you and I have been working together about 24 years now.
Yeah, it's a long time, yeah. 24 years. That's about right.
Yes.
It's funny that you say that you're still working to be a world-class. I never forget our mutual friend who passed away recently, Mr. Jimmy Heath.
Jimmy Heath,
the great jazz legend, right? And what did Jimmy always say? Practice, practice, practice. Didn't matter how many years you were in the business. That was his biggest piece of advice to everyone.
Always something new to learn.
Practice.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, putting a plug in, we're having a memorial for him at Flushing Town Hall online on June 19th. So for the fans who remember him, if you want to hear him play and see him, tune into Flushing Town Hall.
That's wonderful. We'll share that link on the Josephine Foundation Facebook page live, so this way everybody can get a good look. Listen, how are you handling this pandemic and the protests and all of that sort of stuff? I'm down in New Orleans right now. I've been going back and forth, but you're up in the city, actually.
In New York, Big Apple, baby. Yeah, well, you know, the city is having its share of protests, rightfully so, and people are been dealing with the curfews and the COVID. So we're dealing with 2 or 3 things at the same time. Economic, plight, the COVID plight, as well as the police injustices. So we're coping with it. And I think we're on the verge of finally having some change that will help all races and everybody. So I'm hoping that it really is not just a exercise in a fad, that we really take it and really make a real change for everybody.
I sure hope so. Really, the only way it's going to get done is if everybody sits down, has a real calming conversation, and real change has to occur.
Yeah.
No more kicking it down the line for the future. Well, listen, tonight is about having a very, very special guest with us, and a friend of yours, obviously.
Yes. I consider him a friend and someone who I had the pleasure and honor of actually playing for as a musician. He's an incredible actor, singer, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
read the bylines. It's unbelievable. Listen, the voice is magnificent. Alton Fitzgerald White sings with smoky soulfulness, says Variety magazine.
Right.
Alton can sustain a note as if breathing were an optional activity, says the New York Times. Blessed with an irresistible smile and rich singing voice, Alton Fitzgerald White is completely charismatic, says the Denver Post. And then the timbre of his voice is a throaty combination of honey over graves, says the Seattle Post.
Beautiful.
This guy captivates audiences wherever he performs.
Yes.
Triple talented singer, actor, dancer, has starred in 6 smash Broadway hits, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit. He made his Broadway starring debut as John in Miss Saigon. And here's the thing I don't think a lot of people understand. He's the only Black actor who has played a lead role on 5 hit shows on Broadway.
That's an interesting point. I never thought about that, but that's true.
Very, very true. And
incredibly true.
That's in August of 2014, he reached a phenomenal milestone of over 4,000 performances as King Mufasa in Disney's Lion King on Broadway.
Well, actually, I think it was 4,308 performances.
Oh, that's what he ended up with. Yeah, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he is now the author of a new book called My Pride, Mastering Life's Daily Performance. And as you said, after a record-breaking 4,308 performances as Mufasa in Lion King, Alton added author to his growing list of titles with this book. So, ladies and gentlemen, here now we give you just a taste of this truly special artist. Gio.
Hey there, guys. What's happening? My name is Alton Fitzgerald White, and I play King Mufasa in The Lion King on Broadway. This week, I am thrilled to perform for you guys They Live in You from The Lion King, and I'm really excited to perform the version that is featured on my Disney My Way album. Night and the spirit of life calling Mamelayu, and a voice with the fear of a child asking Mamelayu. Wait, there's no mountain too great. Hear these words and have faith. Oh, have faith. They live in you. They live in me. They're watching over everything we see. In every creature, in every star, in your reflection, they live in you. They live in you. They live in you. They live in me. They're watching over everything we see. Into the water, into the truth, in your reflection, they live in you. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, please go to Disney Playlist for more of our performances.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe and tune in next week for our last performance here at 54 Below, New York City.
Well, Clyde, that's about as good as it gets.
Oh no, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes, sir.
Man,
Ladies
a
and
lot more
gentlemen,
we can give.
it's time to bring him on, Mr. Alton Fitzgerald White. Alton, welcome.
Hey there, how are you? Hey,
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm fantastic, guys.
Thank you for coming on, first of all.
Listen,
My
you,
pleasure.
you give us goosebumps every time you sing that song.
Thank you, man.
It is
Thank you.
absolutely amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I first became aware of Alton when I was looking at a Broadway play called Ragtime. He was playing the part of Call House Walker, and it brought me to tears. And everyone in the audience was just crying and clapping. And I said, "Who is this guy?"
Oh,
Years later, I ended up playing for him. It was like, wow, I couldn't believe
many
it.
times,
Right.
many times playing.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So what's been going on now? Where are you going with your career? Because I see you're doing a lot of different things. I've gone to the movies a few times and seen you in movies. I've seen you on Law and Order as well.
And Bull and I can't think of the shows right now.
Right.
The Black something. What is that show?
Okay.
With lots of TV shows. They all start to become one at some point. But yeah, I've been very blessed to be keeping busy. You know, as creative people, we just want somebody to buy what we have to sell.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
you know, we're one of the things that we do as the Josephine Foundation, obviously, is education. And your story is very, very compelling. Aside from the fact that you're such a gifted performer, you're also a very gifted person. And you talk about in your book, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, how you struggled with feelings of inferiority during your childhood.
Yes.
Maybe you could expand on that a little bit of what you meant by that one in the book.
Sure. When I was a kid, and the show I was thinking of was Blacklist. I knew it was Black something, The Blacklist on CBS. Okay, back to your question. Yeah, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, youngest of 7 kids. So that in itself, trying to get attention in my household was a challenge, being the youngest. I had a father who suffered from the disease of alcoholism. And I found a lot of my childhood, I felt like I was competing with the bottle for his attention. And, you know, the alcohol won because of his disease. I knew that I was an artist. Before I had the words to describe it, I knew that I was very sensitive. I knew that beauty was very important to me. I knew that fantasy was very important to me. That's actually one of the main things that saved me in dealing with being bullied in my neighborhood. I grew up in public housing in the projects. I was a smart kid. I loved order. You know, with my father drinking and walking in the door and not knowing what to expect, which goes along with any kind of addiction. At school, I knew there was order. I knew that if I showed up on time, if I did my work, that I'd be rewarded, I'd be validated. And I'm grateful to this day that I was more attracted to that kind of validation as opposed to what was happening in my neighborhood. Being a bad kid didn't make any sense to me. I really wanted to do the right thing. That's kind of, I guess I was born with that kind of character. So I was bullied for being a nerd, bullied for being the son of one of the neighborhood drunks. I was bullied for being effeminate. I was raised by women, and I was raised to be polite and courteous. And these things were not cool in the projects. They made me stand out and be teased for being odd, for being this, for being that. And I went to school with all these same kids because we all lived in the projects, so I couldn't get away from them. School year, summer. My fantasy life and discovering that I was an artist and being attracted to those kind of things really saved my life. That and television. You know, when I was a kid, variety shows were still on TV. So I would see shows like the Sonny and Cher show. I would see American Bandstand, Soul Train, and of course, the Flip Wilson show was
Geraldine.
Tremendous. Yeah, but it was tremendous to see someone who looked like me hosting a show. And the Flip Wilson show was the first successful variety show hosted by a Black man or a person of color, period. So it was really, that was what I clung to. That was my escape. That was my fantasy, pretending I was on these shows. And I don't know one Black kid in the 60s who was a kid in the 60s who didn't want to be Michael Jackson or one of the Jackson 5, you know? And they were everywhere. So I had them to emulate. And then after they performed, they would sit them down and they would interview them. And I liked the way they talked and how they presented themselves. So that was attractive to me, but not cool in the projects, not cool dealing with kids at school. Teachers always loved me because I was obedient, because I wanted to learn. So teachers will always be my heroes.
So how did you make the journey from Cincinnati to New York City? What brought you to New York? How did that happen?
Yeah, I auditioned and went to a performing arts college in my town, which was a very difficult time. They didn't know what to do with me as a Black male performer pursuing musical theater. And I took what I could use and left the rest behind, auditioned for a dance company, got a full scholarship with the dance company in Chicago, and that got me out of Cincinnati into a big theater market. Within a year, I booked my first equity show and I worked my way up from the chorus to doing principal roles.
Wow.
And after being there for about 4 years, I auditioned for the original company of Miss Saigon, booked it, and that's what brought me to New York as the original company member.
Wow. So that's where it all kind of began, from Miss Saigon.
Yeah, sure sounds like it. I have to ask the question now. Here you are coming from Cincinnati, and then you go to the big city in Chicago,
Yeah.
and then you come to Broadway.
Mm.
Man, what with everything that you dealt with, what on earth were you thinking when you first got there? What was on your mind? What was it all about? How did you keep your head together?
It was hard. It was really difficult, and this is something that I think it's. I mean, that's a great question, because be careful about what you ask for, because you just might get it.
That's right.
Because if and when you get it, there's a whole other set of things that you have to learn. You know, you have to rise up to those things. Otherwise, it's so easy to potentially sabotage them.
Mhm.
I was terrified coming here, but gratitude has always been a big part of my life. So I was afraid of being in New York City, and this is like when 42nd Street was before the Disney and all those other things
Right.
moved in.
Yeah, before the Renaissance.
So there was
yeah.
before the Renaissance, yes. So it was like thrilling to be here and frightening at the same time. And I kept reminding myself that, man, I am now like in the NBA. You know, so few actors make it to Broadway. So few actors make it to a hit show. I mean, Miss Saigon was a hit before it opened because of the casting controversy. So I had constant reminders that, yeah, I may be afraid, but I'm here for a reason. And I knew then, but I know even more now, that our lives are cumulative. You know, I can look back and see that everything prepared me for being in that moment, and that I wasn't lucky. I don't believe in luck. That every challenge I faced, every fear I conquered, led me to this place. So I deserve to be there. So eventually the fear went away, and just the excitement of being one of the exceptions to make it on Broadway in my first Broadway show that was already a hit. That started to outweigh the fear and any kind of negativity.
Mm. Clyde, when you played your shows, right? I know how I felt when I first started, and the butterflies. I guess the biggest thing you have is this thing, you don't want the butterflies to take over.
Right.
Yeah. Everyone deals with it in their own way.
Yeah.
It's
But we do
confidence, and the
teach.
confidence that you can deliver, I guess, as a soloist or musician or an actor or dancer. And that comes from, I think, repetition and getting
Training.
That's training.
Right.
Yeah.
I always say that there's discipline in the repetition, as
Mm.
hard as it may be. And discipline is a gift you give yourself.
Yes.
I like that.
Listen,
It's your time.
I teach the master class in acting, and I tell these kids, if you don't have butterflies before a performance, you don't care.
Right.
There are going to be some butterflies. It's just the key is that can't take control. Your discipline has to take control.
Right. And through practice, you learn to turn those butterflies into energy that can help you, as opposed to energy that will, paralyze you.
Yes. A lot of your quotes in your book, in many ways, sound very spiritual, very Zen-like. Were you a fan of like Zen or any type of spiritual practice that you implied or use in your acting and singing? How did you arrive at these ideas?
I've always been a seeker. I've always been a seeker. I mean, when I was a kid, my favorite movies that only came on once a year, kids, believe it or not, things used to only come on once a year on TV. And if you missed it, it was a wrap. There's no way to record it. There were no video cassettes of it. My favorite two movies were The Wizard of Oz. And somehow I even before, not having quite the intellect yet to put it together, I knew that all of those, that all those characters were extensions of Dorothy. I just somehow sensed that. And my other favorite movie was The Ten Commandments.
Oh yeah,
because I love the special effects. I love the magic. I love
sure.
the idea of going against the odds and succeeding anyway, going through the fire and coming out on the other side. A version of yourself that you couldn't have imagined. So that's how it started as a kid.
Right.
And, and to me, and I used to go to vacation Bible school every summer, and the magic in the Bible always made me feel like, oh, wow, the situation I'm in right now in my neighborhood, in my hometown, this is what's happening right now, but there is something else to look forward to. Magic does happen.
Yes.
And over the years, that's just, that's just matured and become more personalized. So I've always been a seeker. I don't really go to church very often anymore. My spiritual practice is yoga. People from yoga. I'm a gardener. I watch things grow, and I'm a tree hugger. So I get inspiration from everything.
Beautiful.
7 days a week.
Do you also meditate as well every day?
I do. Yeah,
Okay.
well, my meditations, I have those times when I kind of linger across the bed, but I'm not one of those who sits with my legs folded and
Lotus
hums.
position.
Yeah, it's not me. For me, I found, because I like activity,
Right.
my meditations are active. Like when I'm gardening, I am meditating because I lose track of time. My focus is on something else, on nurturing something else that's going to give me a return. Just because.
Yes.
The beauty, watching things grow, and that's the gift, and that's that exchange of energy.
Yes.
Cooking is that for me. Really allowing myself enough time to prepare a beautiful meal. I mean, from slicing the vegetables to like hearing that sizzle when the vegetables hit the oil, and presenting it beautifully for myself. Those
Yes.
are things, and I often tell people when I speak, because people say, oh, I don't have time to meditate. I don't really understand it. I would say, try reperceiving something that you're already doing in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like it took me a minute to realize, like, wow, gardening is a meditation for me. I lose track of time. Oh my goodness, cooking, something that I have to do anyway. But like, wow, reperceiving it as a meditation helps me sink more into that moment and enjoy that moment. And then that moment leads to another great moment.
Yes.
Because it's really, the key is
You
really
always,
about,
you always seem to have an eye towards fitness, because I remember you used to tell me about hydroxy cuts many years
my
ago.
goodness.
You were always in the
Yeah.
gym and everything, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I tell you, the main thing I miss right now with still being on lockdown somewhat with the pandemic is I miss
Yes.
travel. Yeah, I miss going home to my family. I miss seeing the world, and I miss my Bikram practice, because my Bikram practice it's my fitness and it's my spiritual practice at the same time. That
Sure.
has been the hardest thing to do without this past
Right.
101 days.
Yeah,
Andrew,
I think Clyde and I have talked about our love of martial arts for many
Oh, yeah.
years. That's something
Yeah.
that we've
That's been a great
had in
discipline for
common
me
over
to
the
achieve
years.
everything I do as well.
Yeah.
Andrew,
Amazing
could we
stuff.
make a plug now to tell people how they can get his book, if people would like to get the book?
I think we're going to talk about his CD too, because I'm going to
Yes.
tell you, that CD, we have something here about it, but his critically acclaimed CD, Disney My Way, is just full of all these reimagined Disney classics. And that's available on Amazon Music. I know that. His book, My Pride, Mastering Life's Daily Performance, an amazing read, is also Barnes & Noble has it, and Amazon.com. Alton, anybody else, any other place you want to plug it, or?
I would suggest you all go get it from my website.
Okay.
Because if you purchase it on my website, I will send you a signed copy. I've included the postage. So all you have to do is sign up. You can get the book. You can get the book or the audiobook, which I have the honor of reading myself. I've done other authors' audiobooks, but I got to read my own book, which was incredible. But all of those things are available on my website, and I will send it directly to you. Or if you want to gift it to a friend or two or three or five, the postage is included. I will send it anywhere in the United States. And also the music is available on
website.
Yeah, we'll post that on the website and on the Facebook page.
Okay.
It's AltonFitzgeraldWhite.com.
There we are. Now, I would get literally hammered if I didn't talk about this next topic. I think you're smiling already because you know what I'm going to say. But you set the world record. You performed the Mufasa in Disney's Lion King well over 4,000 performances. So you set the record on Broadway, and I'm assuming all over the world. The question you have to ask is, to perform the same role thousands of times, how do you do it without burnout? And what do you do on a daily basis to keep that going through that daunting schedule? Sometimes 8 shows a week. It's crazy.
It's always 8 shows a week. Always 8 shows a week. On Broadway, that's it. I did it for the money.
Whoa, that's cool.
I'm joking.
That's
I'm
honest.
joking. I'm joking.
Yeah. I just want those kids to hear that.
No, I mean, the money was a good part of it, but
I'm
for me,
sure.
it goes back to gratitude. You know, I mean, no career goes in a straight line. You know, there's ups and downs and peaks and valleys. There were times when I wanted to do a performance like I wanted a root canal because I was just tired. There were other things going on in my life. But reminding myself, my goodness, I'm in the NBA, even more so this time. You know, at a hit show that people love, that makes people so happy. There were so many different levels of gratitude to tap into. You know, being a working actor, being an actor who got to work in New York City, because so many New York actors spend a lot of their time on the road doing regional theater. But I got to get on the train, go do this incredible Broadway show that makes people so happy, and then come home and sleep in my own bed. Little things like that would add up. And also getting back to discipline, it was up to me to validate myself in terms of doing the best performance I could every single time. If I go out there and just kind of get by, I'm gonna have to live with that. And that's my integrity. And it's too easy to go down that rabbit hole. Once you start taking things, as soon as you start taking things for granted, that's when you realize you've lost it. As soon as you think, oh, I've got this, that's when you've already lost it. So I never took for granted that the over the years that I did it, off and on for 12 and a half years, I never took for granted that Disney would automatically ask me back when my contract was up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also like incentive to go, hey, I know that they don't have to ask me back. There are lots of people who love to play Mufasa. It's up to me to go out there and do the best I can every time. And also financially, you know, when it comes time, if Disney does want to renew me, we get to renegotiate, and I can only ask for more things if I've shown up and shown out every time.
Yes.
Well, they not only asked you back, they asked you to go out to Las Vegas.
Yeah,
and
great time.
Work the show out in Vegas. Why don't you talk about that adjustment?
Oh man, it was awesome. I mean, you know, when I grew up watching variety shows, I never really thought about Broadway. I thought about Sammy Davis Jr. I thought about Frank Sinatra. I thought about, you know, those folks, Lola Falana, folks being on the Vegas Strip, you know, headlining with a bunch of beautiful girls dancing behind me. That was my vision of show business. So to get to go and play Mufasa, and this is the first time that they ever brought like a full-scale show to the Strip. Other shows have come in, but they were cut down versions of them.
Yeah.
But we did the whole 100% of The Lion King. It was tremendous. It was like so many bucket list items like checked off being there. It's where I also discovered Bikram yoga, which has changed my life completely. I discovered hot yoga in the desert. Imagine that. Yeah, it was an incredible experience. I fell in love with the landscape.
They asked you back to Broadway, yes?
Yeah.
And
which is another unexpected gift, because I thought, okay, I've done Broadway, and I'd done Broadway and left there. I left Mufasa to play Mr. in The Color Purple, and I thought, okay, well, you know, I made a good first impression. I left in good standing. So when they called me for the Vegas company, again, not taking it for granted, it was a wonderful surprise. And then invited me back into the New York company was like, wow, I get to have this experience again with even more wisdom under my belt. You know, having left to do another show, which gave me a deeper appreciation for Mufasa, coming back to it. It was an incredible journey.
Wonderful.
Really amazing to think about over 4,300 performances.
4,308.
Absolutely.
Crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
Absolutely crazy to think about it. So, you know, going along with that, and you've said it before earlier in the interview, not a lot of people get the opportunity to be on Broadway.
Right.
If a young entertainer comes up to you and asks you, what 3 pieces of career advice can you give me? What
Mhm.
do I need to do? What are you going to tell them?
One, I would say know your strengths and weaknesses. That's the answer to one question. Know what you do well, but also know what you need to work on.
Mm.
Know what naturally comes to you, but also know what, if you're a great actor and you want to do musical theater and you sing okay, then, work on your singing, because to me, acting is the foundation of everything. You can have a beautiful voice, but if you can't deliver that song truthfully, nobody's going to buy it unless you just want to be a recording artist who never tours. So yeah, know your strengths and know what you need to work on. If you want to do musical theater, you got to know how to at least step touch. You got to get in touch with your rhythm. It's musical theater. I would say practice, practice, practice. It's that ties into discipline, and it's hard. It gets really I have to do this again, but having practice leads to confidence, and confidence is attractive. So when you walk into a room, if you've done that song 1,000 times, you've dissected it, you know it, where you can sing it while you're doing something else. When you get in that room and you are nervous, and we get nervous at auditions, you won't black out. You'll go, okay, I know this well enough to feel my feelings and put these feelings toward the intensity of these lyrics that I'm singing. You can use all those things. You can use that nervousness, but you only get that from confidence, and confidence comes from practicing. My third piece of advice, always find something to be grateful for. And when all else fails, be grateful that you have talent in the first place. Because so many people can't sing and wish they could. So many people wish they could act. There's so many people who wish they could be triple threats, but they only do one of them really well. So be grateful that you've been given the gift of what's already evident to you.
That's some real special advice. So, Clyde, you hit on it a little bit, but I think we got to ask Alton this again. What inspiration did you have to put all of this in a book, to write that book?
Excellent question. My inspiration came from frustration, actually. I hit the 4,000 mark in August of 2014. And Disney made a big deal out of it, which I didn't expect. I was going to celebrate it, but Disney made a whole thing, which was wonderful. And I got cards and texts and emails and whatnot from all over the world. But people kept telling me how lucky they thought I was. No. I'm like, Alton, Disney loves you. You're so lucky. You're so lucky. And I was like, wait a minute, lucky? It felt like a backhanded compliment. There's no skill required for luck. That's just like, oh yeah, these things just fell into my lap. Saying that I'm lucky made me feel like it was just counting all the hard work, all of moving through all the challenges and having to, get back up when you feel like you're the only person in the world who believes in you. And that has to be enough for you to get back, to pick yourself back up and go do it. Or that time, those times when it's like, so Friday's coming and a lot of my friends are getting ready to go to parties. It's summertime and they're going to rooftop gatherings, and I'm getting ready for my 5-show weekend. 1 Friday, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, you gotta go, okay. So to say that I'm lucky discounts all of that. Yeah. So I started writing because I didn't have any peers in that area. So I started like, so let me get on my computer and just start to hunt and peck. And I'm not a typer. Let me just type out my feelings. The next thing I know, I scroll back and see all of this that I've written. And I would write a lot during Act 2 because Mufasa, he has his moment in Act 1. So, and I shared a dressing room with the guy who plays adult Simba. So he would leave and I would pull out my computer, and that was my time to write. And the more I wrote, and I hate writing, I hate typing. I mean, I strongly dislike it. I know hate is a strong word. I strongly dislike typing. But after hunting and pecking and making peace with it, it became a meditation. Because I would really lose track of time. I would get so into my thoughts and like, oh yeah, and start to remember certain things. And so I started with writing the things that I sacrificed to make those 4,308 performances happen. Mm-hmm. Missing weddings, missing funerals, missing parties, relationship suffering, because I'm opposite everybody else, and it's hard to get somebody who understands the schedule. And going, okay, well, I can't stand here and explain because I've got work to do. I mean, really committing to every performance. And I thought, there's luck. No luck is nowhere in that. So I wrote it and I shared it with a couple of friends that I trusted, a couple of actor friends, and they were like, "Man, I've never really seen anybody break down what we sacrifice as artists."
How
And he
long did
said,
it take you to compile the book?
The book took from getting I started writing in September of 2014. I got a book deal in January of 2015, and the book came out a year later.
Great.
But I just want to finish the point that I was making about this. I want to back up a little bit. I was
Okay.
sharing it with people in the business that it resonated with. And then I shared it with some friends who were doctors and lawyers who were saying, man, this isn't just about show business. This is about life. This is about wanting to do anything consistently well and what it takes, that combination of things that it takes. So then it was like, okay, yeah, it's not just about theater. It's really like, that's why I came up with the title. We're all trying to do the best we can, moment to moment to moment. Even if your best is not that great, if this is the best you have to do, that you have to give in that moment, it's excellent. I don't believe in perfection. I believe in the best you can do with what you got in the moment, because the moment will change and maybe I'll do better tomorrow. Maybe I'll do better the day after that. But right now, this is what I got to give. And I'm going to give it with all I have and trust that it's going to be received.
That leads us to this other thing that really got me. You made a statement in your book, I think it was, rejection is the key to character building in life and on the stage.
Yeah.
Kind of ties in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Very, very deep thought.
It does. And all of the stuff was, yeah.
You can actually go out and be a motivational speaker.
Well, I think he
Based
is.
on that book, you know.
I am.
As
That's what I do.
as I did my little research here, I believe he is out there doing some motivational talks. Why don't we talk about that transition a little bit?
Yeah, and your folks should please check out my TED Talk on YouTube. Just type in Alton Fitzgerald White and TED Talk, and my TED Talk will come up.
Okay.
And it's all about service.
Very,
Yeah.
very good stuff.
And
So-
gratitude, which is a very important part of who you are. You always talk about gratitude. It's on the back of your book as well.
Yes. Your gratitude changes everything. I mean, we all get angry, we all have challenging times, but if you can remember something to be thankful for, that can stop you from spinning. And you go, yeah, I'm being challenged in this area right now, but look what I already do have.
That's right.
You know, I don't really want to look back on my past. I only want to look back to learn. I don't want to look back to sit and regret. I want to go, okay, look how far I've come. Okay, so surely I have so much further to go. This is just a moment. Let me focus on what is working. Let me do the best I can with the challenge. And once you've done your best, it's time to go back and do something else. And nurture, I think, is part of nurturing yourself, being grateful for what you do have and how far you have come.
Yes, that's very important.
In any area. Yeah.
What is next for Alton Fitzgerald White?
Next, you know, creative people, we hate that question. We hate that question. We do. I'm going to give you an example, because, you know, there were times when I was like, I would come out of the stage door of doing Lion King, you know, this incredible show, and I'd be signing autographs, and someone would go, okay, so what's next? And, you know, that actor thing, the creative thing kicks in of like, you feel like the need to say something monumental, like, well, next I'm going to win an Academy Award. You know, you feel that pressure.
Right.
And in that moment, I'd be like, well, I'm playing Mufasa right now. Is this not enough? Like, I'm happy. I'm
Right.
satisfied. But when we ask other actors that question, because what we do is so unconventional, you know, a person who's working a 9 to 5, you can ask them what's next. And they can go, well, I'm working toward, you know, being a manager. You know, with us, you know, we are the corporation.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm asked that question, I go, I plan to do more of what I'm doing, and I plan to stay open to all the wonderful new things that are waiting to meet me.
That
Which will
sounds
involve
like a great
acting,
answer.
singing, dancing, speaking, all of that.
Tell me about some of the outreach you're doing.
And let me tell you, but just to go back, you know, I'm not being smart with you. I'm
No,
not being, yeah, but really, but you know, but for kids who are listening to this, that's a real pressure that we put on ourselves as actors. It's and living in New York, and we talk about it all the time. Well, not all the time, because we actors, we creative people, we're sensitive about that. when you run into somebody like, hey, how are you? I've not seen you in a while. So what are you up to? Like, what's next? And you feel like, oh my God, you feel this pressure to say that you're working. And I want to tell these kids, or anybody listening, we're all creative people, right? So whether you're doing a 9 to 5, or especially if you are an actor and are creating from yourself and performing, you're always working. We're always planning the next move. We're always working on that next song. We're always trying to learn that next monologue. So when you get that question, sometimes just go, hey, I'm working. And then you go, well, what are you working on? I'm working on lots of great stuff. That's all you're required to say, if that. Don't, because we also have people you run into who give you the list. Well, I've done this, I've done that. That's a very real thing that we have to deal with in the arts.
You have a real good way you approach it, so that the focus can be on your art. In effect, the way you've done this is you've eliminated the stress in the mind.
Yes.
Of all of that. You're grateful for everything you have. There just aren't that many people in the arts that are like that. It's something that everybody can learn from you about that sort of thing. It's really an amazing way to look at it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I hope so.
Most people are worried about what am I doing after this?
Exactly. And not even enjoying what's there.
Exactly.
Can you imagine? All of Broadway is probably feeling that right now. Like, man, who knew that was going to be my last performance in God knows when? Right. So much we take for granted. And that to me was the beauty of exercising discipline with The Lion King, is that I have clear memories of being present in those moments. As opposed to, let me go out here and do the show. Like, no, I'm here, I'm present. Time is the one thing we will never get back. So if I'm here in this moment, I'm going to try to make the most of this moment. Whether it's on stage, whether I'm with a friend, whether I'm meditating by myself in my garden, or whatever. I mean, time is a gift.
Yes. Clyde, we should also have something to say about this, but this pandemic has really interrupted some of the great creations that were coming to Broadway.
Dude, unbelievable.
Or maybe postponed it. Maybe postponed it. I think great people are still creating and contemplating how they're going to use it when things open up. I don't think creativity ever really stops. You can't stop it.
Well,
but it has.
No.
You have to ask. There's certain things you just can't control in life.
Yes.
Right.
And that's one of them. I know they're talking about they want to open at the end of November, but the audience is going to be the ultimate say in that, because I think there's still going to be some fear about coming back to live theater at that point.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Actors and musicians and people, the technicians and all the people that work behind the scenes, everybody has really got a genuine concern, because they have to earn a living. It's not just about obviously loving what you're doing. They have to, it's how they pay their bills.
Yeah, jobs.
Yeah.
It may look fun to people who are not in theater, who are not not in that world, but as fun as it looks, it's a job.
Yeah, and that's really
a very hard job.
It's really important for the young people to understand that. There is certainly a certain love and feeling you get from performing professionally, but it is a job. And
yes,
it is something that you have to be totally committed to. And
yes.
It's got to take priority over everything else that you do. Clyde, you played which show for when Alton was performing? Which were you involved with?
I have played some shows for him. We did something for Doyle Newmeyer's wedding, I believe. Right, Alton?
Mm-hmm. We sure did.
Doyle, yeah, sure.
Forgot the name of the really nice club.
Wasn't it the Cafe Carlisle?
Something like that, maybe, yeah.
It was the Cafe Carlisle, yeah, because they got married at the Carlisle, yeah.
But
no. Where was the Algonquin Round Table?
That's what it was. I think the Algonquin.
The Algonquin. There you go. Well,
Algonquin.
Yes. It was like the Algonquin. Yes.
So,
and we played a lot at church. I used to sing a lot at Unity.
At Unity,
and Clive.
You did sing at Unity Church.
I've sung at Unity a whole lot of times. Yeah. So Clive, we worked together many times.
Yeah. And I knew when I'm working with you, I got to read that music, brother, because I know you know what it is. You know every inch of that music.
It's
You know,
all good, dude.
I
We
felt
always had a great time.
play on a level that you would be happy because I know you know what's good and what's not. You know,
Thank you, man. Thank you.
thank you.
Well, that's another interesting way to go in this conversation.
What?
How many of us started with liturgical or, some sort of religious music when we were younger? That kind of led us that way, to kind of taught us that we could sing or play an instrument or something. That's another big thing for a lot of the young people that are out there. Some of the kids that are singing in choirs in their school choirs and stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
And I guess the biggest thing you learn from that is to sing with feeling.
Yep. To sing with feeling.
Singing with feeling, and then the ensemble unity, singing in a group, not singing by yourself anymore, and actually having to sing your parts on pitch.
Well,
Learning how to blend. That's very important. Learning how to blend.
Hearing, yep. It's a marvelous way to do things. Now I'm going to ask you one last question, unless Clyde has one that he'd like to hit you with. But of all the people you've performed with, name some of your favorite people that you've performed with, and then tell me, who do you want to listen to if they're going to sing a song?
Okay. Some of my favorites are, there's a woman by the name of Carpathia Jenkins, who is a beautiful, beautiful voice. She's done several Broadway shows, and now she does a lot of concerts all over the world with orchestras. I feel like our voices blended beautifully. I enjoyed singing with Audra. I did Ragtime opposite her in Toronto before it came into Broadway. Singing Wheels of a Dream with her was unforgettable. I enjoyed singing with the Chants. I've only got to sing with the Chants. We sang in Ragtime as well. She was my Sarah, but I felt our voices really meshed really beautifully. And in terms of who I would like to hear, anything that Seal sings, I will listen to. I think Seal has such an interesting voice. He doesn't sound like anyone. No one sounds like him. It's just such, and that rasp in his voice is so vulnerable and powerful at the same time. He's one of my all-time favorite voices. Behind him, I would say Jeffrey Osborne, Peabo Bryson.
Beautiful. Love them both.
Yeah.
That's super voices. Well, listen, Alton, I don't know how we can thank you
Yes.
for spending some time with us tonight. I know
It's
a
my
lot of the
pleasure.
young people who will be watching tonight, along with, of course, all of the Lion King fans and all of your fans
Yeah.
on Broadway, are going to get quite a kick out of listening to you tonight.
Thank you.
We are hopeful that you had a good time and that you'll come back.
I had a
and
great
visit with us.
time. I would love that.
Folks,
Thank you for
don't
inviting
forget-
me.
You're very welcome. Folks, don't forget to pick up a copy of Alton's acclaimed CD, Disney Y-Way. And I'm telling you, I've listened to the thing over and over. You can't put the thing down. It's amazing.
AltonFitzgeraldWhite.com. The CD's
Very
there,
good.
the audiobook, and the book's there.
And
And
the
it's also
book,
available, and the CD's available on Spotify, all the other music.
all
venues.
the streaming music
Yes.
sites. My
All of
Pride
them.
Mastering Life's Daily Performance. You also can get it at Alton's website. We'll post that website after the show is over. And I don't know how we can, again, special thanks to our special guest and good friend here, Alton Fitzgerald White.
Yes.
Good luck in everything you do, my friend.
Thank you, Alton,
Thank you.
for letting us
Blessings to
take
all
the
of you.
journey through your life and your successes. I've learned a whole lot about you from reading the book and talking to you. You're an incredible personality that seemingly has no major ego, which is beautiful. So many people, are pompous. You're just so easy to talk to. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Wonderful stuff.
Blessings, guys. Blessings to all
Thanks
of
very much,
everyone.
Alton. Be
Thank you.
well.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Folks, don't forget next week when our special guest will be another legend of the Great White Way, the original Cassie in Broadway's chorus line, dancer, choreographer extraordinaire, Miss Donna McKechnie. Now, stay advised of all the events by following the Josephine Foundation on our Facebook page and Instagram account. On behalf of my co-host, Mr. Clyde Bullard, our producer, Mr. Gio Vitozzi, and myself, peace, strength, and love until we see you next week on Odds and Ends, Life, Entertainment, Theater, and the Arts.
And good night and stay bright.
And in my twisted face, there's not the slightest trace of anything that even hints at kindness. And from my tortured shape, no comfort, no escape. I see but deep within his utter blindness, hopeless as my dream dies, as the time flies. Love a lost illusion, helpless, unforgiven, cold and driven to this sad conclusion. No beauty could move me, no goodness improve me, no power on earth if I can't love her. No passion could reach me, no lesson could teach me how I could have loved her and make her love me too. If I can't love her, then who? Long ago I should have seen all the things I could have been. Careless and unthinking, I moved onward. No pain could be deeper, no life could be cheaper. No point anymore if I can't love her. No spirit could win me, no hope left within me. Hope I could have loved her and that she'd set me free, but it's not